just what are your plans for the off season and possibly playing or just doing individual workouts?
Yeah, I mean, probably take a little bit of a break here, just for maybe a week. I don't really want to lose a ton of the stuff I've worked on and just trying to get my body to...
Imagine holding a lottery ticket worth billions and then setting it on fire because your pride wouldn't let you cash it. That's the situation the WNBA is walking into right now with Caitlin Clark. For years, the league fought for attention, pushed for relevance, and waited for a superstar who could truly break through beyond the sport. Then they finally got one. They got a player who sells out arenas in minutes, who helped drive massive spikes in TV ratings, and who has generated more economic momentum in a few months than some franchises manage in years. And how was she rewarded? With a rookie salary that wouldn't even cover a luxury car, a locker room atmosphere that often treated her like the enemy, and a league office that stayed quiet while defenders targeted her physically on the court. Now the consequences are starting to surface. Rumors are growing that Clark may already be looking toward an exit, and not just a temporary break. We're talking about potential interest from overseas or breakaway leagues, with offers that could reach into the hundreds of millions, structured with equity, ownership stakes, and generational wealth the WNBA simply cannot match. The league had a once-in-a-generation golden goose, and it's starting to look like they may have mishandled it. Let's talk about the numbers, because this is where the disrespect becomes impossible to ignore. Caitlin Clark's rookie contract with the Indiana Fever pays her a base salary of $76,535 for an entire season of professional basketball. People will argue, that's the collective bargaining agreement, the league can't pay her more, and technically that's true. But look at what she delivered in return. Analysts have estimated that in her rookie season alone, Clark accounted for roughly 26.5% of the league's total economic activity. One player driving a quarter of an entire professional league's business. Her arrival helped accelerate a new media rights deal reportedly worth $2.2 billion over 11 years. She pushed the league toward prioritizing charter flights. Games were moved into larger NBA arenas because the demand was overwhelming. She brought billions in future value and hundreds of millions in immediate revenue, and the league handed her a check for $76,000. In the NBA, a player generating that kind of impact would be signing a supermax worth $60 million a year. This isn't just a pay gap, it's an infrastructure gap. The WNBA's business model wasn't built to handle a superstar of this magnitude. And instead of rewriting the rules to reflect her value, the league hid behind contract limits. For most athletes, that level of financial disrespect would already be enough. But for Clark, the money was only the beginning. Because if the salary was an insult, the way she was treated on the court was something far worse. From the opening tip-off, it felt like the established veterans in the WNBA weren't interested in passing the torch, they seemed determined to snuff it out. Everyone saw the clips. Kennedy Chandler of the Chicago Sky blindsiding Clark with a hip check when the ball wasn't even near her, a hit that in almost any other league would draw suspension. Angel Reese cheering on the roughness from the bench, tenured players repeatedly taking cheap shots and clotheslining her on drives. Physical play is part of basketball and no one expects her to be coddled, but there's a difference between competitive toughness and systematic targeting. The real problem wasn't just the fouls, it was how the league responded, or rather didn't respond. When the biggest attraction in women's sports, the player anchoring a new multi-billion-dollar TV deal, is being hunted on national TV, the commissioner should be issuing fines and suspensions, protecting the star and the product. Instead, there was silence, as if the WNBA was proving that no individual is greater than the institution, but forgot that without Clark the league's visibility shrinks back to charter flight scarcity and indie streaming. By failing to protect her, it signaled that her well-being mattered less than preserving vets' egos. And if you were Clark sitting in an ice bath after absorbing another cheap shot, you'd have to wonder why you're risking your body and future for a league that won't even call a flagrant. The antagonism didn't end on the court, it seeped into commentary and media narratives too. And this is perhaps the most baffling part. When a sport welcomes a tidal wave of new supporters, the legends usually embrace it. When Tiger Woods burst onto the golf scene, the greats didn't try to undermine him, they welcomed the growth and the spotlight he brought to the game. In the WNBA, though many of the legends seemed less welcoming and more resentful. Take Sheryl Swoopes, a Hall of Famer and one of the greatest ever, who instead of celebrating Clark's historic scoring, went on podcasts and spread outright misinformation. She falsely claimed Clark had an extra year of eligibility because of COVID. She didn't. She claimed Clark was taking 40 shots a game. The real number was closer to 22. She even tried to frame Clark as some kind of bully against younger players. These weren't harmless opinions or spicy takes. They were verifiable falsehoods meant to undermine what Clark was achieving. And it wasn't only Swoopes. Diana Taurasi, before the season even began, famously said, "Reality is coming" for Clark, suggesting she'd get humbled immediately at the pro level. Taurasi's comment could be brushed off as competitive trash talk, but the non-stop criticism from former players began to feel coordinated, like gatekeeping from an old guard that didn't want this particular player becoming the face of the league. They wanted the revenue she brought, but they didn't want to give her the credit. The result was a toxic, mean girls atmosphere that was uncomfortable for fans to watch and likely exhausting for Clark to endure. And this is where the leverage shifts completely. While the WNBA was mishandling its biggest star, Breanna Stewart and Nafisa Collier were building an escape route. They launched Unrivaled, a new 3-on-3 league designed for the off-season, and this isn't just a casual side project. It has serious financial backing, and Clark is reportedly their top target. The offers being discussed are staggering. This isn't a normal salary deal, it's being compared to a Lionel Messi-style package. When Messi came to the US, he didn't just get a paycheck, he got a cut of jersey sales, a share of streaming revenue, and equity in the team. Unrivaled is rumored to be offering Clark something similar, over $1 million for just a few weeks of play, plus real ownership in the league itself. That changes everything. If Clark accepts, she stops being just an employee who can be ignored or fined and becomes a partner, a stakeholder, a mogul. The appeal is obvious. Why grind through a full WNBA season for $76,000 while absorbing cheap shots, when you could play in Miami for massive money and ownership upside? Unrivaled offers her a way to stay in the US, play elite basketball, and avoid the toxicity of the WNBA establishment. And Unrivaled may not be the only major player circling in the water that we also have to talk about the international money, because this is where things get truly staggering. For decades, WNBA players have gone overseas to places like Russia, Turkey, and China to earn their real income, but for Caitlin Clark, the numbers being rumored are on an entirely different level. Reports have floated potential offers as high as $15 million from Chinese leagues for a single season, $15 million, in some cases structured in ways that could be close to tax-free. Then there's Ice Cube and the Big Three. Ice Cube has been extremely open about wanting Clark, publicly offering $5 million for her to play in his 3-on-3 league against former NBA players, later confirming the deal could have climbed toward $15 million with incentives. He understands something the WNBA still hasn't fully grasped. Caitlin Clark isn't just an athlete, she's an entertainment engine. She sells tickets, drives ratings, and creates demand wherever she goes. If she ever chose to take a gap year and play in Europe or Asia, she wouldn't just be earning more money, she'd be making a statement about her true market value. And the scariest part for the WNBA is that she could absolutely do it. Clark doesn't need the WNBA for exposure. She's already more famous than the league itself. If she played in Barcelona or Shanghai, her fans would simply download whatever app they needed and follow her there. The league needs her far more than she needs them. And we can't ignore the biggest piece of armor she wears, the Nike swoosh. Before she even played a professional game, she signed a signature deal with Nike reportedly worth $28 million over 8 years. That's generational security, the kind of money that allows you to walk away from a toxic situation without hesitation. Most WNBA players can't afford to leave, they need every paycheck and benefit. Clark is operating in a completely different stratosphere. Her Nike income alone dwarfs her WNBA salary, and she also has deals with Gatorade, State Farm, Wilson, Panini. She's essentially a corporation unto herself. That's why the league's power dynamics don't work on her. You can't intimidate someone who could practically buy your franchise. If the WNBA refuses to protect her, forces bad travel conditions, or treats her like she should be grateful just to be there, she can look at her bank account and realize she's the one doing them the favor by showing up. That Nike deal gives her freedom to make choices based on respect and happiness, not survival. And right now, the WNBA isn't offering much of either. And the timing of this entire situation could not be worse for the league. The Players Association has already opted out of the current collective bargaining agreement, which means by the end of 2025 the league and its players must negotiate a new deal or risk a lockout. The players are pushing for higher salaries, stronger benefits, and real revenue sharing, and their entire case is built on one thing: the league's explosive financial growth. But here's the problem: that growth is overwhelmingly tied to Caitlin Clark's impact. If Clark decides to step away during negotiations, whether to play overseas, join Unrivaled, or simply take a break, the league's value takes an immediate hit. Imagine trying to negotiate billion-dollar media rights while the biggest star is playing in Turkey or China. It becomes nearly impossible. The same players who have thrown shade or helped create a hostile environment are about to realize that their pay raise depends on Clark staying. If she leaves, the leverage disappears. Viewership drops, clauses in media deals could activate, and that massive $2.2 billion agreement could be renegotiated under very different terms. By alienating the league's biggest draw, veterans may have unintentionally jeopardized the largest payday women's basketball has ever seen. And that's where we are now, the WNBA staring down a crisis of its own making. They had the opportunity to fully embrace the Caitlin Clark era, to protect her, market her, and reward her value, but instead they allowed jealousy and resentment to fester. They paid her a salary closer to a fast food manager than a generational superstar, and they let her take cheap shots on national television. Now, with enormous offers rumored from overseas and rival leagues, the question isn't why she would consider leaving, it's why she would stay. She already has the money, the fame, and the leverage. The only thing keeping her in the WNBA is her desire to compete in the top league, but that motivation fades quickly when the best league treats you like the enemy. The WNBA tried to humble a superstar, and they may soon learn that in today's sports world, the superstar holds the cards. If Caitlin Clark boards a plane to Europe, she doesn't just take her talent, she takes a huge part of the league's future with her. So let me ask you, would you blame her for taking the money? Would you stay in a job where you were underpaid, mistreated, and unprotected out of loyalty alone? The WNBA needs to wake up, change course, and recognize what it has before it's too late, or it will be remembered as the league that fumbled the Michael Jordan of women's basketball. What do you think? Should Caitlin take the massive overseas bag, or stay and fight for the WNBA? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more uncensored sports truth. Now imagine holding a winning lottery ticket worth billions of dollars, and then burning it because you were too proud to cash it in. That's exactly what the WNBA is doing right now with Caitlin Clark. For years, the league begged for attention, fought for relevance, and hoped for a superstar who could elevate the sport, and then they finally got her. A player who sells out arenas in minutes, boosts TV ratings overnight, and has created more economic impact in 6 months than some franchises have in an entire decade. Yet instead of embracing her, they rewarded her with a rookie salary that wouldn't even buy a luxury car, a locker room environment that painted her as the enemy, and a league office that stayed silent while opponents targeted her on the court. Now the consequences are catching up fast, because rumors are swirling that Clark may be looking toward the exit, not for a break, but for massive offers from European and breakaway leagues worth hundreds of millions, deals structured like Lionel Messi's with equity, ownership, and generational wealth the WNBA can't match. The league had one opportunity to protect their golden goose, and it looks like they may have blown it. Just look at the numbers. Caitlin Clark's rookie contract with the Indiana Fever pays her only $76,535 for an entire season, and while people argue that's simply the collective bargaining agreement, it doesn't change what she delivered in return. Experts estimate that in her rookie year alone, she drove roughly 26.5% of the WNBA's total economic activity, one player responsible for a quarter of an entire league's financial engine. Her presence helped secure a $2.2 billion media rights deal over 11 years, pushed charter flights into focus, and forced games into NBA arenas to fit the crowds. She brought billions in future value and hundreds of millions in immediate revenue, and the league handed her a check for barely $76,000. From the opening tip-off, it felt like the established veterans in the WNBA weren't interested in passing the torch. They seemed determined to snuff it out. Everyone saw the clips. Kennedy Chandler of the Chicago Sky blindsiding Clark with a hip check when the ball wasn't even near her, a hit that in almost any other league would draw suspension. Angel Reese cheering on the roughness from the bench, tenured players repeatedly taking cheap shots and clotheslining her on drives. Physical play is part of basketball and no one expects her to be coddled, but there's a difference between competitive toughness and systematic targeting. The real problem wasn't just the fouls, it was how the league responded, or rather didn't respond. When the biggest attraction in women's sports, the player anchoring a new multi-billion-dollar TV deal, is being hunted on national TV, the commissioner should be issuing fines and suspensions, protecting the star and the product. Instead, there was silence, as if the WNBA was proving that no individual is greater than the institution, but forgot that without Clark the league's visibility shrinks back to charter flight scarcity and indie streaming. By failing to protect her, it signaled that her well-being mattered less than preserving vets' egos. And if you were Clark sitting in an ice bath after absorbing another cheap shot, you'd have to wonder why you're risking your body and future for a league that won't even call a flagrant. The antagonism didn't end on the court, it seeped into commentary and media narratives too. And this is perhaps the most baffling part. When a sport welcomes a tidal wave of new supporters, the legends usually embrace it. When Tiger Woods burst onto the golf scene, the greats didn't try to undermine him, they welcomed the growth and the spotlight he brought to the game.